and like Yeah, you're living a dream, dude. It's doesn't even exist.
We've
It's
talked
just
about
one of
this
those things.
before.
It's one of those things that you use to measure your decaying body, so that you know, so that you know. Yeah,
Yeah,
you know
none of this matters. It don't
that
matter.
and gravity, my oldest foe.
You know what? That's the problem with gravity. Without gravity, there'd be no such thing as like fat people, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's my point. Or like saggy bits, things that are saggy.
Boobs.
Uh,
What about
yeah,
boobs?
well, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of them,
Hey,
as it were.
can you guys in the chat hear V before we get too far?
Yeah, as we like the next time I go on to my diatribe, and then Mike in Manitoba's all, I can't even hear.
I
It's
just
like
hear Tom
literally
talking.
5 minutes of just dead air.
I was gonna edit that, but then I didn't.
Yeah,
Didn't
fuck
mean that
it.
much to me. We still got to wait for these guys to respond and say whether or not they can hear you. I don't want to move on until we
Yeah.
know for sure. That all right. Oh well, you know what? It's a Stoneclaw who's saying it, so I don't know if he's messing with us or not. Like he's the kind of guy who like he does like I. It's hard to trust him because he's a prankster, and I don't use that.
Right.
I don't like to use that word loosely, but no, he's actually a really funny guy. He was talking about when can he come on and talk for 2 hours about how the Undertaker is actually an undead wizard, not some guy named Mark. One of my favorite bits that he does on the Skinwalker tapes is he pops on for just real quick out of nowhere. He'll just pop in and he'll say, "Hey, I just wanted to stop in real quick. I'm trying to buy a plane ticket for my girlfriend, and and then he'll like pitch his T-shirt website." And he does it every time, and because he'll just pop in and he'll do it, and then he'll crack a couple jokes, and then he'll leave whenever and it will just like after he's done with his pitch and after everyone kind of like hounds him about it. And actually I can turn my audio up, maybe that'll help. But yeah, he'll just leave right when he's done, and then like later on in the show he'll come back and do the same thing again. And it's a smart marketing bit, because if you don't catch him in the beginning, you catch him in the latter half, right? So
Right.
it's a good bit. Plus, it's just really funny to hear him when he does his whole trying to buy a plane ticket for my girlfriend, and if you can go and buy my shirts. And he's got some pretty funny like fight Bigfoot, fight your local Bigfoot T-shirts, and you know
Really?
what, Brad, go ahead and do your you can plug your stuff in the chat if you would. He's got like a punch your local Bigfoot, and then the Bradshaw's creepy I'll screw up the word compendum. Anyways, he does audio like recordings for like he'll read stories and do narration or whatever. And I used to push Edward October from Octoberpod for voices and narration and stuff like this, but he I don't know. It's a toss up between him and Brad now. So, V, what did you do this week? We'll get right in. Let's just jump right in. What did you
Jump
get
right
into
in, huh?
this week? Yeah.
Well, I'm doing this actually for the past couple weeks. I know we haven't had a chance to talk about like much because we've kind of, well, I don't want to say we've been fucking off or anything. Yeah, last week all we did was have you do a shot of what do you call the
Hot sauce.
chupacabra
Yeah.
yeah, you did the El Chupacabra, and we didn't really do a show, and then we kind of just been chilling or whatever. So I haven't really, I guess neither of us really had a chance to kind of tell everybody what's been going on. I started this like intermittent, what's the word?
Intermittent.
Intermittent.
Intermittence.
That's a dumbass word. An intermittent fasting. And so I'm like literally like trying to lose weight, and I'm walking every day. I'm out there like hustling, dude. Like it's funny. I get out there. I feel like one of these old people that walk around the mall. You go to the mall and you see them, and they're like they move their arms. Like I wish you could see what I'm doing right now, because I'm really like kind of
You're pumping.
getting it.
You're doing
Yeah,
speed
as they
walking,
say,
right?
getting it. Yeah, speed walking while moving fast. But it's pretty good. Like I mean, we'll see if I've lost weight. I weigh myself at the end of next week to see how much I've lost. But I mean that, and then I've quit smoking, like which is kind of, and I told you about this recently, but it's kind of blown me away because I mean I've smoked for, let's see, I started when I was 16. I'm 38 now, so 22 years I was smoking, and like there were a few times that I remember. There was this one time when I was like in my early 20s and I was like, I'm gonna quit smoking, and I threw my cigarettes out in the desert behind my house, and like the next morning I was like, where are those cigarettes? Like in the, and so there were a few times that I tried to quit, but for some reason this time it like stuck. Like I was just like, I'm done. I like stopped. And I think the big thing that kind of like got me about it was that like I started to realize how much I was spending on cigarettes, and out here in California they're close to $10 a pack. And so that's, a pack a day, that's $300 a month. That's like a car payment, dude. And so I kind of started to like seep that into my like brain and like my bones, more or less, going like that's ridiculous. Like I could be saving that, and like why am I spending that much? So I literally just stopped. It was like cold turkey, and I haven't wanted a cigarette. And more or less, I wouldn't say that it's not that I haven't wanted a cigarette. It's more that like I just don't want to spend money on cigarettes. I'm cheap now. I guess I'm too cheap to buy
You're
cigarettes.
frugal.
Yeah, frugal. Right. So that's been going on. That's kind of what's going on in my life. I'm the fasting thing. It's funny because like I have to eat within this window from like 9 to 5, and then at 5 until 9 I can't eat. So, and it's funny because I was reading all this stuff about it, and there was this thing that was like, oh, it's just a fad or whatever, and I was like, how is it a fad if they've been fasting like since biblical days? Like, doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, but
it
back
doesn't
then
make
they
sense.
did it primarily because there just wasn't food. They called it. They're like, what's a really good spiritual discipline? Not eating, because none of us can eat anyways. So we might as well tack that on to our devotions.
Yeah, exactly. So I've been doing that, and then I don't know. That's kind of the gist of it. I had some interesting interaction with this guy. I think I told you about this. There's this guy that's been messaging on me on LinkedIn, and we've been chatting. He's this little person, and like this is me being
Politically correct.
being politically correct because I like the guy, and so like if he's listening, I don't want to offend him. I don't know. He might not have. He might not have seen. I didn't mention anything about the podcast, but his name is Sam Humphrey, and he was in this movie. What is it called with Hugh Jack? The Greatest Showman. He's in this movie, The Greatest Showman, and I've been talking to him on LinkedIn, and he like wants to get into like voiceover, like acting and stuff for like cartoons. And so I was like, well, I've got this project that I'm working on, and we hit a halt because we don't have financing, and so we're looking for people to help me finance it. And then once we get it going, I have the whole crew and cast ready to go. And so he's supposed to message me this week with his like demo reel. And I really don't know anything other than like he had some disease and he was in The Greatest Show. He knows Hugh Jackman, I guess, but he's this little dude, and like it's kind of crazy because like when you see his picture, he looks like a child. Like he looks like an 8-year-old or something. But the guy's like 26 or something, 25 or 26. But really decent guy. It's kind of interesting. Like we'll see where that goes. That's kind of just like what's been going on with me. I know you had some stuff. We were talking this week. You told me a really funny story, and I'm actually I think it'd be good if you told it to everybody. The stuff where you went to the what do you call it, horror con? What is that thing that you go to, and then it was like a convention, right? I don't want to say it's called horror con,
well,
but isn't that?
I always anytime I would tell my grandma where Dayton and I were going. I would tell her we're going to the horror convention, and I'm a lazy speaker, so there are certain words that just don't roll right, and it sounds like I'm saying the horror convention, like I'm taking my 9-year-old son to a horror convention, and she says, the what? It's very like old-timey Catholic woman.
Right.
And so I have to then enunciate and say, no, the horror convention, like horror movies. And,
not the horror.
No, the horror convention. But
which sounds more my speed, to be honest.
Right.
That sounds like something I'd like to go to. Sign me up for the horror convention.
You know what? I'm gonna get this out of the way early because it's easier to just like do the roll real quick, and then we'll catch them as they come in. So hey, welcome to chat, Mike, Buzz, Jay Coop, Stoneclaw, ubiquitous DAK poster, and Bezos. Like I just got done talking about how I'm a horrible speaker. And I just
Did you
took
get
my.
Buzz Busby? He's
I
in Buzz
did. I
Busby.
said Buzz. I said Buzz. I
I
believe.
like to mention him every time now because at that one the last
Because
time he
he
was
was
like,
saying you
"Oh,
hated him.
yeah." So now I have to like call him out every time to
You,
prove my
your
appreciation for
love for
him. And
him. Your secret hidden
yeah,
love for him.
not love.
I
That's
would call it love.
that's
The way
pretty
that you
gay.
speak about him behind closed doors. Uh, Bezos says
Don't
horror.
tell anybody.
he says
I'm
horror.
supposed to tell.
You can have both, which is true because you get a lot of these. You get a lot of the cosplayers, and a lot of them dress up as
Oh, okay.
like sexy Freddy Krueger and sexy
The
Chucky,
horror.
and
Really, that does
sexy
sound.
Jason. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's a
I'm in.
horror convention.
Yeah.
Uh,
Horror.
but and
Horror.
as anybody who's listened to the show and who knows me on a personal level or has followed the Twitter or whatever, they know that I am I'm in a big way against the mask movement, and I have spoken against wearing masks since the beginning. And the only time that I've worn a mask, I can count on one hand how many times I've worn a mask, other than when I was working for those 2 weeks before I got fired, when I was working in a hospital. I can count on one hand how many times I've worn a mask, and it's because masks have been proven to. Every time somebody presents to me like one piece of scientific evidence, some kind of publication in a medical journal saying that masks are useful in this pandemic situation, I can present them 5 that are also equally peer reviewed and from as reputable, if not more so reputable, medical journals that say that masks are absolutely worthless. And the moving of the goalpost, where first it was wear a mask to protect yourself, and then nobody was buying it, so they were like, well, no, just kidding, wear a mask to protect everybody else around you, which was in its own way like kind of frustrating, because I'm like, well, so you lied to us in the beginning or what? Because then you're saying that masks don't protect the wearer, they protect everybody else, so why would you tell us in the beginning, right?
My argument always is like, well, and that's why I always tell people when they go, oh, what mask? I go, well, first of all, like on the box of like those masks, if you look at it, it explains, like there's a disclaimer that tells you that it doesn't protect against diseases. And like the other thing is they're surgical masks. They're for people that are doing surgery in like what do you call it?
Sterile
environments. They're wearing gloves and they're like performing surgery and they've washed their hands ridiculous amounts of time. You're going out in the public in the elements wearing this mask. You're touching like what cracks me up is like you'll see people wearing masks at like the grocery store and then they have no gloves on their hands and they'll touch like the ATM machine that like everybody else just touched. And it's like, or they swipe their card and then they touch the keypad. It's like, literally, like, do you not understand, like that is a way to get the disease too? Like, if you're gonna get it, you're gonna get it. You're like protecting your face is not gonna do anything.
And it's so funny when they're at the grocery store. I just wanted to throw
that in there.
When they're at the grocery store, and those plastic bags that are impossible to open. That remember on Naked Gun when he's like trying to open it, and he's like. Trying to get it open. Like you'll see people take their mask down and then they'll go open it after they've touched every can of beans on the shelves and everything.
Or like you got that guy at the counter that's like talking to you with the mask on and he's going, and you go, what? And then he pulls his mask down and goes, do you want blah 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 bags? Like you just canceled out wearing your mask entirely because you took it off. If that works that way, then you just canceled it all out.
Can you hear? Okay. Sterling's in the studio with us, by the way. Say hi, Sterling.
Oh, okay.
Hi.
Yeah, this was
Sterling.
This was the last.
The youngest, right?
He's
the younger.
He's the youngin.
Sterling Archer. Oh.
Yep, Sterling.
His middle
Archer.
name isn't Archer.
His
middle name isn't Archer. Is it really?
It is. Yeah.
His middle name is Archer, really?
It is. His full name is Sterling Archer, and well, his last name is Miller, so Sterling Archer Miller. But
yeah, that's right.
Because that was the whole deal. Is I told my wife.
I thought you didn't name it. You didn't name it. Duchess was supposed to be the.
No, that's my middle name. I wouldn't give her my middle name because then he'd be a junior.
Duchess. Well, remember Sterling Archer's middle name is Duchess.
No, it's Mallory. His middle name is Mallory.
No, is it Mallory?
Sterling Mallory Archer. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But no, that was the rule. Is I told my wife we were done after Dayton, and then Leslie said that she wanted another kid, and I said, well, like the way we had it set up was I named the first boy, she names the second boy, I named the third, or if there was a girl, she names the first girl, so on and so forth. And the way it was set up was if we had another boy, then I would get to name him. And I said the name that I wanted to give Dayton was Sterling Archer Miller. And she said, no. And then when she said she wanted another kid a few years down the road, I said, it's going to be a boy. And it's my turn to name him. So it's going to be Sterling Archer. And she said, we'll see. And then at the 13-week mark, when we went in for the ultrasound, sure enough, it was a boy.
And a lot of people don't know that Xander, your oldest, was named after also the Frisky Dingo character, Xander Cruz, which is the same people that did Archer, and it's like there's a similar character there with Xander Cruz and Archer, which is pretty cool. I honestly, it didn't surprise me when you told me that you had kids named after these cartoon characters, which we all love and know. But I kind of would have expected you to name one of your kids like after a car, like Plymouth Sundance or like Dodge Valiant.
That's a joke. Do what?
Yeah.
Or a bear. Name a kid after a bear.
Yeah, that's
bear, like one in Fortnite. There's a bear there's a code named a bear in Fortnite.
Right on. Yep. And this is the sort of contribution you can expect from Sterling. He's a Fortnite master, so you're going to hear a lot about that, I'm sure. But yeah, what I was getting at was with the mask. Where I don't even remember where I was with the mask. But
you were supposed to tell us what happened when you went to the horror con.
I'm getting there.
I know, but that's
the best. Gosh dang it! That's how we're going to close out.
We get off topic. We always do. It's the what do you call it? We do like a little side info, and then it's like, but also, and the next thing you know, we're on a tangent.
We're talking about Halloween and the first Halloween, how it was celebrated with the rift in the two dimensions kind of like folding over on one another, and we were exposed to all sorts of like jack-o'-lantern monsters and shit. That's actually how it started. Don't fact check it because you'll find out that's not true. But you're right. Yeah, on the boxes it says that the mask won't protect you from coronavirus specifically. It doesn't say COVID-19, but it is
the vid.
Yeah, the vid, the Rona, and none of them actually protect. Even the N95 mask is proven to not protect from coronavirus and COVID-19 specifically. So because I believe the particle, it's like it protects against 95% of particles, and the particles that are smaller than the openings within the mask are any particle that is smaller than those openings, which includes corona and COVID-19 specifically. So there's no mask on the market that protects you from COVID-19. In fact, the people who study and work with the virus have to wear those big hazmat suits or whatever.
Right.
So, and they have to be like hazmat technician level 4 or whatever crazy thing. But I never made it that far. I got hazmat operations and what the hell's the other thing? Anyways, but operations was as high as I got. And so I wasn't qualified to wear the whole get up, but there's nothing that protects you from it. And then what's funny to me is I don't wear them, and this is something that I encourage everybody to do, because there was a point where I wasn't telling people the secrets to getting into stores without a mask, because I didn't want people to make a scene and ruin it for people like me. Because we have legitimate reason to not wear masks. We fall under the ADA guidance and the requirements where companies have to make reasonable accommodations for us. And there were people who were going in, and as soon as they were told no, they were like kicking and screaming, and I need to speak to your regional manager, get him down here from Tulsa right now.
Karens.
Right. And I didn't want that, so I didn't. I wouldn't talk openly about like what qualified. But now at this point, it's too late. People have already been doing it, and meanwhile, I just know more about the ADA guidelines and what is required from these organizations that I can calmly talk to these people and get what I want out of them, anyways. So by all means, I recommend everybody go and read the ADA guidelines of what certain medical conditions qualify for exemption from the mask mandates. For instance, for me, PTSD, that is covered. And so people with anxiety and panic attacks and stuff, they can't wear masks. People with autism, I know a lot of people who have autism, Asperger's, all that stuff, those people are they're exempt from it. People with asthma, even something as simple as asthma, you're not supposed to wear a mask, and you don't have to.
Asthma.
COPD, yeah, all those people, they shouldn't have been wearing a mask anyways, because that's like that's got to be hard to breathe for those dudes. But for me, like I'm on the burn pit registry, and I have respiratory issues that make it so that I don't have to wear a mask. And I tell people that when I walk in, and I have some teenager at Ace Hardware telling me, "Hey man, do you have a mask that you can wear? You're supposed to wear a mask in here." And I'm always like, "Buddy, I got a respiratory condition from the burn pits in Iraq. Do you really want to go there?"
Big fella. Well, you know, my biggest annoyance, my biggest annoyance is with like with the mask thing right now is, and I was telling you this earlier, is like either this is how people like they use this whole mask thing to like either empower themselves, like they feel like they have control over something. Like it's always that lady, you know, like you go to like the gas station and she's like, you can't come in here unless you wear a mask. And you're like, oh my God. Or somebody's using it as a means to like not do work. Like I told you, my apartment complex, like they're not doing it. It's like everywhere you go, they're going, oh, we can't do that because COVID. Like we're not doing that right now because COVID. And it's like, well, how is that affecting anything in your operation?
Right.
You know what I mean? So everything is like COVID related, and so which is great because you know I'm actually did that thing to see if I can get money for because COVID. You know, I don't have money because COVID. So sorry, I know we're getting off again.
No. This is all part of it because you know I had started, or when I had told you the other day that I had the duolog lock. I have it on lockdown. I got something I could talk about because this is our rant time, right? This is what really grinds our gears. And but yeah, that's the other thing too is like these ladies who like try to like overpower you. I had an old dude at Ace's Hardware. I've never been kicked out of a store for not wearing a mask, but the other day I did. This old dude sheepishly, like he came up to me, and I went to buy like these fly traps or whatever, and I'm not going to turn it into a commercial or whatever, but there's like this bag or whatever that has this smell stuff in that you pour water in it, and then the flies are just attracted to it. And I mean, like this bag filled up with flies. It was nasty, but I mean, it kept the flies off of my patio, which was awesome. But I went there to buy one of those, and this old dude comes up on the aisle and he says, "Hey, is there something I can help you with?" And I said, "No, I was looking for these." And I held up the empty box, and I was like, "There's none left." So, and then he stands there as I'm looking at the other pest control stuff. He stands there, and I could see him out of my peripheral for like a whole minute. He's just staring at me. And then finally he goes, I like look over at him, and I said, "Yeah, what's up?" And he said, he does this. He's like, "You're going to have to put on a mask if you want to keep shopping." And I said, "Okay, cool. Then I guess I'm just going to leave." And I left because I was done there anyways. And rather than making a big fuss about it, and plus the dude was like so sheepish, and I didn't want to give him a heart attack and like bog him down. Cause I mean, this dude survived the Great Depression, the first one. Right. And like, he's seen some stuff. And so I didn't want to put him through getting told down by like some dude presenting information like legitimate government practices. I mean,
so he was like an old man. Is just
like, look at how many people, like, look at the people that work at the hardware store. And I'm not talking about big box hardware stores. I'm talking about like the Ace's Hardware, even the smaller, like privately owned, mom and pop hardware stores. It's always like a super old guy because they really don't have much else that they can do. You know what I'm saying? So so I'm like, you know what? All right, bud. And I walked out. But so this is where I'll say, what's funny too is when people, like, if I don't wear a mask, and I'll get stopped because I'll come in and then they'll let me in without the mask because I'll explain to them the situation. They're like, all right, whatever. And then somebody will stop me in the store, and it'll always, without fail, it's always a short black lady, and she'll come up to me and she'll say, "Sir, you need to be wearing a mask." And I'm like, all right, listen, I already cleared it with the guy at the door. I'm already tracking that you guys have this policy. However, like, I talked to the guy at the door, and like I talked to your manager last time I was here, I don't have to wear a mask because of the Americans with Disabilities Act, and I'm covered under that. So I need you to understand that while you're worried about me spreading a disease to you by aspirating, you could have had a 0% possibility of getting some kind of or some kind of disease, from some airborne disease from me, had you just left me the fuck alone. Because I wouldn't have been talking to you, and now you've got me talking to you, and I'm not wearing a mask because I don't have to, and you have one that doesn't protect you, and now you've had this interaction with me. If I have COVID and I am asymptomatic, you have it now too, and you could have avoided this by just minding your own business. And then they're like, all right, and then they sheepishly run off or whatever. And this is the thing that I'm trying to express to people. I'm like, if you just mind your business, you're not going to get it, because I don't talk to anybody. I hate talking to people. And
I'm the same way, yeah.
If you just leave me alone to go do my shopping, there is a 0% chance you're going to get anything from me. And not that I have it even. But anyways, I digress. I went to the horror convention like you were talking about earlier. And this was in Indianapolis. And this is right after mask mandate came back, and all these governors decided that they've had these masks required this whole time, but now all of a sudden they're like, well, we've got people dying again. So, well, no, we don't have people dying. We have people testing positive now that we have more tests available. More people are getting it. And not more people are dying. In fact, we've plateaued and started dropping down on the death and on an already low death rate. But whatever. I'll digress again. They kicked up this thing where they're like, all right, from now on, we have to enforce this mask mandate again, right? So I go to this convention and everybody there is wearing a mask, right? And in Indianapolis, and it's a city, so people are like, it's run by a Democrat, and Democrats love the mask, and because they just love control and irrational power and flexing of their political
of course
power, right? So in Indianapolis, I'm in this hotel. It's a Marriott, I believe, and the problem is you have Marriott staff. And then you have the horror convention, Days of the Dead is the name of the horror convention, staff and they have security for Days of the Dead, but then they also have Marriott security. So it's just this big clusterfuck, right? Of who is in charge, and when you talk to one, the right hand doesn't talk to the left. That sort of thing. Yeah. So I walk in, and the first security guard just looks at me, looks back to his paper. He was reading a magazine or something, and he doesn't say anything. So I'm like, all right, must be clear. And I go all the way down the hallway. Everybody's wearing masks, right? And I get to the end of the hallway and turn left where the check-in station is. And I wait in line. I do my social distancing or whatever. And I get to the front. And I say, hey, so I got a military ID so I can get in for free. And then I say, and he's under 10. So do we get a wristband or what? And they were like, oh, yeah, that's just over here. And they point me over to the guy, and the guy puts the wristband on me. He's like, but you have to put on a mask. It's a requirement here. And I was like, okay, well, let me educate you real quick. And I explained to him the American with Disability Act. And then they're like, okay, well, I understand that, but it's a rule here, and we're obligated by Marriott staff to enforce this rule. I'm like, okay, well, this is a federal law, right? So I don't care if it's you personally, Days of the Dead, or Marriott, or whoever's telling me I need to wear a mask. This federal law trumps every one of those things. So who do I need to talk to? And then it's finally this other guy comes along, and apparently this dude is the head of the Days of the Dead. So he comes up and he's like, the guy tells him or whatever, he's like, hey, so this dude, he's saying he doesn't need to wear a mask because of some law or whatever. And the guy's like, nope, you got to wear a mask. And I'm like, well, I was already cleared. And by that I meant I walked past the security guard, and the security guard didn't say anything. I said, I've already been cleared. So, and he's like, oh, you were cleared by staff? I was like, it was a security guard over there. And then the guy behind the table was like, oh, yeah, Steve cleared him. So this dude that I didn't even know goes to bat for me. I didn't have the name of the security guard, so but he gave it to me. And so the head of security
Steve.
For Marriott, Steve. So so the dude's like, all right, well, if you got it cleared, then you're good to go on my end. I don't care. And I forget what his name is. We'll just say it's Carl. But so he bounces out. So then I turn around to this guy and I'm like, hey, I appreciate it. I know it's kind of a pain in the butt, but I'm just, letting you know. And the guy's like, all right, yeah, if anyone asks, just let them know that Steve, head of security, was the one who let you go. And I was like, right on. And then I said his name, and he's like, Carl or whatever. And I was like, all right, cool. And so we go on about our business. And I'm walking around, I'm getting a lot of dirty looks, which is fine, whatever. So we go and we find Andy from Child's Play. That's the whole reason we went there, really, was to get Andy's
Right.
signature. And first of all, we went there to get Brad Dourif, his daughter, Fiona, and Andy, and then Andy's mom from the movie. I don't know her name. We were going to get them all to sign this Child's Play action figure that I bought specifically for this event for my son. And everyone canceled except for Andy. So Andy's there, and Andy and I have history because I back in MySpace days, like he and I got into it on MySpace, and I called him a stupid microchip, and he blocked me or whatever on MySpace, but he didn't recognize me obviously because it was like 15 years ago, and so we get his autograph and we get our picture taken. And this is one of the times that I wore a mask because I'm like, if I'm going to be right next to this dude, I don't want him to be, because he's a little guy. I mean, he's like 3 foot tall, and he never grew from Child's Play 2. He's still the same height. And that's not true. He's probably like 4 foot. But I'm getting right next to the guy. I'm like, I don't want to breathe on him and him be all uncomfortable. So I throw a mask on for the picture, right? Take the mask off as soon as I walk away. And then we go on about our business. This security guard lady, she herself was also about 4 foot tall. She comes like storming up because apparently somebody went and like found her and was like, there's the guy. And then, so she tracks me down and she's like, hey, you need to, I see your son has a mask on, which we appreciate, but you're going to need to put a mask on. And I was like, well, no, I don't, because, and I explained the whole ADA thing again. And she said, that may be the case, but we have rules here and that require you to wear a mask. And I'm like, okay, again, this is a federal law, so whatever silly thing that you're trying to enforce here in the Marriott or the Days of the Dead convention is superseded by this Americans with Disabilities Act. And she's like, well, you're going to have to clear it with, and I said, Steve, the head of security, I already did. It's already taken care of. He's already tracking it, and I've already dealt with the guys up front. As a matter of fact, Carl said it was cool too. And she said, okay, but did you clear it with the Marriott manager? And and then she like disappears, right? She's like, all right, fine, I'm gonna go get to the bottom of this. So she runs off. Dade and I continue our thing, and then she catches up with us again in the hallway. Like, we hadn't made it 15 feet. She catches up with us again, and she's like, hey, so I went and talked to so-and-so, I don't know who, but they said that they didn't clear you. And I was like, all right, well, who do I need to talk to? And she said, you have to talk to somebody up front. They're the ones who actually determine whether or not you can go without a mask. And I was like, well, I already talked to the guy up front. And then she's like, well, what was his name? And I said, and I didn't have a name at this point because I hadn't talked. I didn't know this was like another hurdle I was going to have to cross. So I have this fake name that I got from Jamis years ago. And I use it in situations like this as like a real quick, like a last ditch effort. I was like, well, I talked to Greg Rufford up front and he said it was fine. And she was like, all right, well, I'm going to have to go talk to him. So we go, she leaves, we go on about our business, and we're about done at this point. Like, we've circled the floor, we've seen all the celebrities, we've bought all the crap.
But what was the name? What was the name that you gave?
It was Greg Rufford, Ruffort. And
fake names are the best.
But she,
I'm a big fan of fake names.
And that's what,
especially
said,
ones that sound legit.
You said Humperdinck or something earlier. Who was it?
Engelbert Humperdinck.
Yeah, but who was you were talking about an actor or something, and you said Humphrey. Or so was I don't remember. You said something.
Sam Humphrey.
Yeah,
Sam
that's
Humphrey.
right. That's right.
Yeah.
I was like, that sounds like a fake name. If I hadn't looked him up on IMDb when you told me that,
I thought you were talking about Engelbert Humperdinck.
That's what I'm saying. I got confused. But yeah, she catches up with us again. At this point, we're already almost done, and she said, "Listen, it's me again." And she was like, at this point, she went from like being like hard charger security guard or whatever to like now she's just, I think she's as tired of it as I am. But she comes up, she's like, hey, listen, so I went looking for Greg and I couldn't find him. I don't know if he's here anymore or what, but I'm just going to say this. If I get one more complaint, I'm going to have to ask you to go and find him and then have him reach out to me because we're getting too many complaints. And I'm like, you got it. I was like, if you get another complaint, you come see me and I'll track this guy. I'll track down Greg and I'll get him out to get him to call you. And she was like, all right, I appreciate it. And she wanders off. we finish our shopping in the floor and talking to the people or whatever. And as we're leaving, like, I'm still not wearing a mask at this point. I'm like, hey, all right, you have a wonderful day, officer, or whatever. Like, I don't know why I called her officer, but because she's not. She was. This is like where the people who fail out of the police academy go and they become security guards for Marriott or Days of the Dead and shit. So yeah, and then we just left, and that was that. And that's the trick. If ever you need a fake name, use Greg Ruffert, because it sounds real enough to not like confuse anybody or like cast doubt.
Greg Ruffert.
But it's also fake enough that nobody will like be able to find
it. It seems like a real name. It's like, to me, like we talked about this before, where like fake name, like remember we talked about when we were doing that thing to like attack that coffee bean place, and I put all those fake profiles, and like right away I started using fake names like Bill Preston and Theodore Logan and Walker Ranger.
And she didn't even catch on. Be
like,
prepared to be
Bill
sued, Mr.
and
Theodore.
Ted, like, catch on.
Mr. Preston.
And like, but Greg Rufford is like a name that like it sounds like real enough, but like to guys like us, we go, that's a fake name. Like, right away. Like, I love fake names. You know, I always like on the spot I can come up with them right away. And it's funny to me because, and this is just like one of those things that you should like try sometime in your life, is next time somebody asks you for a fake name, just give them a fake one, especially if it's in a situation where you'll never see that person again, or like it doesn't even matter, like you're at Starbucks or something. There's nothing more fun than just using an alias like right then and there and just going, that was funny. Especially if you can come up with really good ones. You'll find it becomes like a skill that you like enjoy. I promise you.
Yeah, it's always a trip to get away with. And like you said, you know what? All these years I never knew what like a con man meant. Like I thought just con, I thought that was like its own word, right? To pull a con, right? And I never questioned it, but then when you said con man, confidence man, the long con, the long confidence, I was like, "Oh, duh." So like once you said that, I was like, man, I am a con man, because as many times as we've pulled some silly things like that, like we are definitely for sure con.
It's all about instilling confidence in people. Yeah, man. It's funny, like you mentioned that the confidence thing, and like it's so funny. People are so easily manipulated, and like I always say, especially liberals, because like all you have to do is put some icon that they love to telling them what to do, and they go, "Oh, I would listen to anything they say," because they're simps, or what do you call it, NPCs. NPCs is my favorite one right now. But literally, like, it's all about like instilling confidence in your target, and you just make them feel like they're so important. And I used to have a bot, remember Sergeant Smith? He used to always tell me, you stroke their ego, man. You get them to like feel like they're important, and what they're like, like women, it's easy, like if you can like flirt with them a little bit and like boost their self-esteem, because it's always women that they have that power trip, because either they're some feminist who think they're being oppressed, so you got to give them that like feeling that they're in charge when really they're not, and like you make them feel like they're in charge. Like, man, I got so good at this at one point where it's like I could go to any type of person and like speak their language, I guess you could say, like literally urban communities, anything, and I go in, and the next thing you know, I'm friends with everybody. And I think that stemmed because I used to sell cars, and like that's kind of how you have to be when you talk to customers. You immediately have to like find that common ground, and then like become their friend essentially. And that's all really being a con man is getting somebody to do what you want. In fact, it's funny, somebody the other day, I think it was Mike in Manitoba, mentioned desert trash, and he said something about desert trash that made me laugh. And I read this email that I had found, like I was going through all my emails, deleting stuff, and there was an email from Desert Trash, and she like was just ranting at me, like cursing at me, and like, you're a piece of shit. She called me a sycophantic narcissist, and like I had to look up sycophantic because I was like, what the I was like, I know what narcissist is. I go, that's definitely true, but what's sycophantic? And I saw it, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm
yeah. Most of the time these horrible words are like, they do apply to us, like that. Like, when somebody calls me something like that, like a Janine Garofalo word, I'm usually like, they're probably right. Like
xenophobe.
Yeah, those are pretty good. Let me see here. Tyler Primavera in the chat. By the way, welcome to the chat. And Jadogi, I don't know. I'm not going to pretend I know how that's pronounced. Welcome to the chat. But also Tyler here says Sam Hyde nationalism. So, and while we're on the subject of fake names, that's one of my favorite gags too, is when there's a shooting or when there's some kind of like act of domestic terrorism, they always post a picture of Sam Hyde. And then the response naturally is he can't keep getting away with it. And sometimes it ends up on the news. Somebody will post it and they'll be like, well, they're saying that the shooter is a man named Sam Hyde. And it's so funny when they do it. And
what's that one with the dude? His name is like Zippity Bop Bob.
Oh no.
You know the one? It's like Zippity Doo Bop Bo Bop Beep.
Well, that's a real guy. He got arrested.
It's a real
Let me look.
That one always cracks me up. It's like Zippity Bo Bop something. Yeah. Yeah, fake names are great. And you know what's even funny is if you can give one that's like obvious, like I did that Bill Preston and Theodore Logan, and that always cracks me up because if, like you said, if you're from our generation, then you know who Bill Preston and Theodore Logan is. You know, but like anybody else would be like, oh, what did that lady say? She's like, I'm gonna get a lawyer and sue you,
prepare to be sued, Mr. Preston.
Yeah, that was so funny. And like it's funny because like if you know like those weird like obscure like pop culture things, you can throw out names. Like you tell somebody your name is Barry Allen or something and they don't know, you know. And that was one of the bits on that movie Catch Me If You Can, remember, with your boy Leo, is all the fake names he always gave were like comic book characters. And I think one of them was even like Barry Allen. But yeah, it's like great, man. You keep giving fake names till somebody goes like that dude. He was like Walker Ranger. That's not a fake name. Walker. I had to do a Chuck Norris one.
Tyler's here talking about promotion boards, and I think you would know quite a bit about promotion boards. I was on the business end always of promotion boards or whatever with the whatever the competition ones or whatever, like the Audie Murphy and then the recruiter of the year and all that crap, but then also the promotion boards too. Is as long as you're confident, and that's the thing with promotion boards, as long as you're confident, like competition boards or whatever, those ones you have to be right, otherwise they'll correct you on the spot. They'll be like, no, that is wrong.
Yeah.
And they'll really browbeat.
Was it Audie Murphy? Was that the one? That's the one that was the competition, right?
Yeah.
Audie Murphy.
Yeah, it was one.
Yeah, I never had to do that. Well, you know, I conducted the boards. I was the board recorder, so I'd sit in the back and hear all the questions. And then when I went for my board, we were in Bulgaria, and I didn't even know I was going to the board. And they were like, "Oh, it's your turn now." Like at the end of the board, after I had done the recording for the whole like 20 people that were before me, they go, "Now you're gonna do it." And I like literally just sat in the chair, and then they were like, "What's your favorite football team? Like, who are you?" And I was like, "I don't know. I don't even watch sports." And then you know what? The funniest thing, one of the guys, his name was First Sergeant White. And he's the scary bald guy, man. And he never blinked. He had these big eyes, never blinked. And he just stared at me the whole time. And then he for a while, everybody was like quiet. And like the sergeant major was like on his cell phone the whole time. And then the first sergeant with the eyes, he goes, "Are you a man's man, V?" And I was like, "What? Are you asking me like if I like women? Like, is that what you're asking me?" And then the sergeant major got off the phone and he's all, "Pretty much we just think you should be a sergeant. So, you know, you're good. Get out of here." And I was like, "What?" I was like, "What the fuck?" I didn't have to answer anything. And it would have been dumb because I literally heard every question that they were asking everybody before, like in the board. Like I sat through every board, so I would have been able to answer every question because I heard all the answers. So it would have been ridiculous to ask. It's like what do you call like a formality, you know? And then they made fun of me because I saluted wrong. That was it. They said your salute is too weird. And then like one of the first sergeants came over and like adjusted my arm. That was it, man. I never went to another board after that was my sergeant board. I never went to.
When I went to, you didn't go to the staff sergeant board at all?
No, I was promoted. No, I wasn't promotable. I was like getting ready for the staff sergeant board, but I never went.
Oh, I went for the staff sergeant board. That one's easy because they'd know that you already know all the answers. So at that point, they just kind of want to chat with you and find out who you are or whatever. And then they'll just ask you little silly questions or whatever. But for my sergeant board, it was when we were deployed, so I got real lucky. I just wore the ACUs it would have been ACUs at the time, And
Yeah.
I had memorized the whole study guide, the studyguide.com or whatever. I'd memorized
Really?
it verbatim. So anytime
Wow.
we went down the line, and like I answered every question straight from the book, and like even like the paragraph long answers, like
Yeah.
off the top of my head I would recite them. And then one of the first sergeants, he was towards the end, he goes, "How do you make a circular PT formation?" And I said it wasn't in the book, so I'm like, I don't know. That's not in, it wasn't in the study guide. I didn't read 2120, like I didn't read the whole regulation or whatever. So he was like, "Oh, my bad." And then he was like, "No questions, no further questions." And then my first sergeant, remember, First Sergeant Laird, he goes, he says, it gets to him, and he's like, "Well, today for me is like when you watch your kid graduate from high school." He's like, it has been a lot. I never thought I'd see the day. No further
That's
questions.
funny.
And then,
It's funny is when I used to hold those boards, is I'd get to listen in to what all the first sergeants and the sergeant majors would say about the soldiers, and like, you're supposed to like pretend that you don't hear them, but
Right.
you could hear it. Like someone would leave and they go, "That dude was ate the fuck up. Did you see how garbage blah 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 blah?" And then the other dudes, like some other dudes, they'd be so high speed, like, and you were talking about that question where he asked you and he was like, "I don't know, I guess, I'm sorry." And there was one time that I remember they were all going, "Does anybody know the answer?" Like after the dude had left, they were like, "Does anybody know the answer to that question?" And he was like, "I don't know. I was asking him to see if he knew so that I could get the answer for myself."
I had actually convinced the board for one of the pre-boards, the mock boards or whatever. I had convinced all the platoon sergeants and the first sergeant, well, with the exception of one platoon sergeant, I had convinced them that Kenneth Preston, or no, not Kenneth Preston, William Gainey? Yeah, it must have been William Gainey because he was the senior enlisted advisor of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. I had convinced him that he was the sergeant major of the Army, and I had just said it like, because I had known everything else, and then as soon as I spout that one off, they were like, they just assumed that it was right, and then they went to carry on, and one of the my platoon sergeant, as it were, he was like, hold on, no, that's not right. And then everyone's like, "Yeah, he's right. He's the sergeant major of the Army." And then my platoon sergeant, Sergeant Eads, he goes, "What, did this happen last night? Like, when did this happen?" And then, they discuss it for a little bit. He's like, "Well, I guess I don't know." And then they move on with the questions. And then come to find out when I left, and my sponsor was like, "Yeah, you said William Gainey or whatever," when it was actually, at the time, it was Kenneth Preston, I assume. I don't remember who it was at the time, but yeah, I was wrong, like way wrong, and they let it slide. One of my favorite board stories, and then we'll move on to the actual topic.
Oh yeah, I forgot we had a topic.
Yeah, I forgot that we have a show that we're supposed to do.
Yeah.
We were doing one of those competition boards, and it wasn't Sergeant Audie Murphy board. It was the Recruiter of the Year. Well, it was the
There's one
NCO
with a
of the
Mexican
year.
name too.
Yeah,
It's like
Morales,
the
Morales board.
Morales. I kept thinking it was like Hernandez or something.
No,
The
well,
Hernandez
close. You were
board.
close. There's only like as
Some
Joe
Mexican.
Biden, as Joe Biden will tell you, unlike African Americans, the Latin or the Hispanic community is a very diverse and cultured, multicultural back or whatever. Anyways, people. He actually said said that today, right? He said that unlike African Americans, which is to say, African Americans are black. The end. Like, there's no, you can't talk about like all the various different cultures that are within Africa, which is like the largest continent, but God forbid you acknowledge that black people come from a very storied background of multiple different cultures. But it's okay to say that about South America and Central America and shit. Anyways,
Right.
I'm standing there, right, and we're in line, and this is for the NCO of the year, Recruiter of the Year, Center Commander of the year, and I was competing for both Recruiter of the Year and Center Commander of the year just because of the way it like rolled over in the timing. I had just switched over to become Assistant Center Commander in Green Bay, and so they were like, whichever one you do better in, whichever one you win in, is the one that you're competing for. And I was like, all right, cool. And so I'm standing there in line, and you remember how it is, like the dude will open the door and he'll say, all right, count to 3 and then knock, and then they'll tell you to come in or whatever.
You gotta knock really hard,
Right.
like
Right. And so
You can't like do a little wussy knock, otherwise they'll get mad at you.
So this dude,
I used to tell people to like kick the door down
Right.
and then like break
but
dance.
you're gonna ruin it. You're gonna ruin it for me. This is part of the story. I think I've told you this story.
Oh,
You just
my
stole it
bad.
from me. Now you stole my thunder. You took the wind out of my sails. No, but this dude,
My bad.
this dude comes out and he's like, hey, all right, count to 3, and then you're going to knock 3 times and then come in or whatever. And apparently he jumped the gun when he came and told dude this, because the dude waited, counted 3, and we're all like thumbs up or whatever. And I'm like, good luck in there. And the dude goes, boom, boom, boom. And then he heard what sounds like, to me, clearly I heard, hold on. And then he opens the door and he like storms in, and the dude's like, he comes right back out. He's like, oh, they apparently weren't ready for me. And I'm like, oh, well, hey, no worries. Don't let it get to you, because if you go in there and you're not confident or whatever, it's going to just screw up the whole performance. And he's like, all right, yeah, right on. And he's like pumping himself up again. And then somebody down the hallway in the headquarters yells, come in, to somebody else. And I was like, that's you. And the dude barges, he like knocks, and then he like bursts in. And then I'm like, just go and be strong. And like, even if they try to kick you out again, just, it's a test. You need to stand your ground. And he's like, all right, boom, 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 runs in. He's in there for like 3 minutes. And then he comes out and he's like ghost white. And like, apparently he went in there and like, they told him, no, we're not ready for you yet. And he just went on about it anyways. And he's like, Sergeant Morale's reporting his order, or reporting to the president of the board, like all like demanding to be seen. And like this dude, which like you have to admire that confidence, but at the same time, it was absolutely the wrong thing to do at the time. And so he ended up failing, and which was great for me because I needed all the help I could get. He was one of my one of my competitors in the recruiter category. But yeah, let's. What are we choosing to? To Greg Ruffert?
Greg Ruffert, yeah. Fake names in general.
To
any
names.
fake name, any fake name that you can come up with, especially a good one.
Uncle Dink.
Engelbert. I'd like to do Captain Horatio T. Spaulding, or like Rufus Firefly.
Oh yeah, the dude's
Groucho
from
Marx.
Groucho Marx, yeah.
Super Iron Man.
Mm-hmm.
Super Iron Man's another good one. Sterling contributed that one.
Yeah.
So what are we?
Yeah, it's a good.
I'm excited about this bit that I'm going to do because I didn't tell you what it was.
I know. I don't even know what to expect here.
It's you're going to have to use your imagination because you won't be able to hear it on your end. But what are we talking about today, V? You want to give us the?
Yeah, well, we're continuing our part 3. We're on our part 3 of our Swing and Dick series, where we speculate on the strange occurrence of a situation that has no explanation, or has some explanation that seems a little flimsy. Like last week we did the week before last, we did the one about the guy in Australia that like nobody could identify who he was. And then before that we did the hikers in the Russian Alps or whatever.
Yeah,
and so this
were
week
abducted by aliens. Yeah.
Yeah, they had a frost yeti with the plus 15 frost. So this week we're doing one, and this is something that I kind of ran across when I was trying to find something we could do about the disappearance of Frederick Valentik. And I'll give you kind of a brief synopsis here from the
Which
Wikipedia.
Sounds like a fake name too.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, so next time you get a chance, you can use that one. Say Frederick Valentik. Or Valentich. I'll give you the gist here from the Wikipedia, and I'll try to sound like I'm not reading. Essentially, Frederick Valentik was an Australian pilot who disappeared while on a 125 nautical mile training flight in Cessna 182 a light aircraft registered VHDS over Bass Strait in the evening of 21 October 1978. Described as a flying saucer enthusiast, 21-year-old Valentik informed Melbourne Air Traffic Control he was being accompanied by an aircraft about 1,000 feet above him, and that his engine had begun running roughly, but before finally reporting it's not an aircraft. There were belated reports about UFO sighting in Australia on the night of the disappearance. However, the Associated Press reported that the Department of Transfer was skeptical a UFO was behind Valentik's disappearance, and that some of their officials speculated that Valentik may have become disoriented and saw his own lights in the water or lights nearby the island while flying upside down. So that's interesting. That's kind of an interesting thing right there, because that's kind of the cop-out answer too. This was one that, like, when I read all this stuff about it, the Wikipedia and such, it kind of made me go, well, and I'm always on the fence if somebody can give me like an argument where I can go, it's not fucking paranormal. I go, it's not fucking paranormal. It's probably this, it's probably that. And so immediately I'm like looking for a way to like discredit this and go, well, it's probably not, whatever. But there are a lot of things in this one that kind of made me scratch my beard and go, well, I mean, that's interesting. Well, what we had mentioned earlier when I was talking to you was like, you could easily say, logic tells me that, well, the guy was an alien enthusiast, so anything unexplained to him, probably he would just default to like, it's just probably an alien, dude. Like that fucking meme, the historian, History Channel, it's
Yeah,
aliens.
I'll have to do the
Yeah.
thing for you.
Yeah,
Not saying it's
exactly.
aliens,
Yeah,
but
but
it's
it's aliens.
aliens.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what this dude at my default, his default could have been that. But at the same time, in contrast, like I was saying earlier, is that the chances of him seeing something that are alien, especially like you're obsessed with aliens and you chase down aliens your whole life, at some point you're gonna run into something of the sort. And that's just my opinion, man. Like that's like if you're obsessed with something at some, and even in your death or so-called disappearance, and like I really scoured this to see if there was any reason for him to like disappear. And apparently there was like a thing about him like staging his own disappearance and like a theory or whatever. But like I don't know, like there's wasn't enough for me to go, well, that's not enough for like when you really think about a person disappearing, that's a lot, dude. Like just going like I got to get rid of everybody I know, I got to say goodbye to this, I got to say loved ones, everything, I have to just not exist, and not that many people can do that. And this guy's been missing for 38 years.
Yeah,
No,
it's
wait,
it's funny. No, 41 years, because even if you
41
go
years.
to
Yeah, yeah.
his Wikipedia, it shows the duration that he's been missing. Like, and it's like a countdown, right? Or not, like it's a count up, because it shows how long he's been missing. Like, and here's the good news: like, if he ever comes back and he's like, "Oh, dang, I made it onto Wikipedia," and they never lost hope. Like, they still have a thing that says the duration missing for 41 years, 9 months, and 17 days. Like, apparently he went missing at 7:12 at night, Australia time, but he was 20 years old. And actually, I have a picture of him. You're gonna have to imagine. Here's a picture of Alan did it when he.
No, that's not really. Yeah, that's Bradley Cooper. It's
No, you
right?
know what? That's not even Bradley Cooper. That is actually Kenny Loggins. Kenny...
Flock of seagulls.
No,
I was
it's not
gonna
even
say-
him. It's Kenny Loggins. And what you don't know, and I hope it's not super loud.
Wait. Are you playing Highway to the
I
Danger
am.
Zone?
It's playing Highway to the Danger Zone right now, and everyone at home can hear it. Because I wanted.
I thought that was yeah.
As
Kenny
I was
Loggins,
reading
there
the
you go.
thing, as I was reading the story, I thought I was going to call the thing you had me at Top Gun, because it belittles everything about this Frederick Valentic guy.
Yeah.
Because he was a shitty pilot, and he kept failing at the thing. He only had like 150 hours of flight time, which to me seems really low. I'm not an aviator, but I feel like I could. I'm gonna go ahead and transfer back to me. And every time we change back to that picture, it's gonna start over the Danger Zone song. So as often as we can transfer back to that, I'm gonna do it. I was thinking about this last night because my wife and I started watching. I'm a big fan of American Horror Story, and I've seen all of them except for Apocalypse. And the only reason I didn't watch Apocalypse was because it had like the characters from Coven, which was my least favorite series or season of American Horror Stories. And so last night she asked, well, which one haven't you watched? And I said, I haven't watched Apocalypse, and for that reason. And she said, well, how about we watch it? And we're watching it, and like all of a sudden they're like getting onto this plane, and the dude who was supposed to fly, who I assume was the pilot, got killed. And still they took off, and they were able to fly off to their destination. And like in my mind, I'm thinking about the end of the world scenario, like with that movie 2012 with John Cusack, and like he's able to fly this plane. And I'm always thinking about, in an end of the world or catastrophic situation, would I be able to get behind the joysticks of a plane or whatever? It's not really a wheel, it's like a half wheel. Would I be able to get behind the U of a plane and fly a plane to safety? And I think that I would. Do you think you'd be able to fly a plane in a pinch, V? V, are you still there?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I got you now.
I don't know. The call just like dropped for some reason. That was weird.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we're still recording. And my question, what was the last thing that you heard from me?
You were talking about horror, American Horror Story, Apocalypse, and then you said something. Your wife watched it with the. I don't know. That was the last thing I heard.
Well, that was pretty much the gist of it. But what I wonder is, in a apocalyptic situation or like a catastrophic situation, would you be able to get behind the wheel or whatever, or the U or W, I guess it kind of looks like, of a plane and fly it to safety? Do you think that you'd be able to do that?
Me?
Yeah.
Like as me personally, yeah, I definitely could. You know, and another like flex, I guess you could say. When I was in Iraq, I studied for the AFAS. I was like on a whim, like on a bet with this warrant officer, the guy that re-enlisted me actually, because I like screwed over my commander because I asked a warrant officer, Chief Zimmerman, I don't know if you remember him. I asked him to re-enlist me over my company commander because I hated my company commander. He demoted me like 3 times. So after like my stuff was over, I was able to re-enlist in Iraq, and so I asked this guy, Chief Zimmerman, to re-enlist me. He was the coolest dude ever. He had this wife with big fake boobs, and he used to always say, "I paid for those, man. I love those things." And but he, on a whim, like I told him, we were joking one day, and I told him that like. I was like, you know, what you guys do isn't that great. And he's like, oh, you think you can fly a plane? Why don't you? What, you think you can fly a helicopter? Why don't you take the AFAS? Blah blah blah. And I was like, I'll do it. I was like, I'll do it. So like one day he like picked me up from like the office and like took me down to the Ed Center in on what is it, Cobb Spiker, and like had me take the AFAS test, and I passed it. I like right there on the spot. I didn't even study. I just passed it. I was like 2 points short of like almost failing, but like I passed it. And he was like, well, now you got to become a warrant officer. You got to put in your warrant packet. And I was like, no way, dude. I was like, I just wanted to win the bet, and it was like for $20. Because you know I was like a total dick back then, and like I hadn't re-enlisted at the time yet either. But yeah, I could do it. I like understand like everything about it, like flying and all that. So I think I could do at least a helicopter, maybe an airplane. I probably couldn't land very good.
Yeah,
but I could definitely get us off the ground.
I think flying a plane is probably, I mean, they each have their pros and cons, right? I mean, a helicopter is more maneuverable, but a plane is like faster and smoother. And I think the controls would be a little bit easier on a plane. The trick is like being able to maneuver correctly. Anyways, the point is, like you'd be able to get behind the wheel of a plane and fly, and it wouldn't be an issue, right?
Yeah.
And this dude has like 150 flight hours, and he thinks that he's like the God's gift to aviation, and he ends up eating it on a 1 hour trip to go pick up some crawdads or crayfish or whatever he was trying to pick up. But yeah, that's what kind of blows my mind about this whole thing. And I guess he had all sorts of issues. He kept failing the flight test or to get into the Royal Air Force or whatever, and and then he freaking eats it on a crawfish pickup, which is like the worst of the worst way to go. That's not how I want to go out, is dying on a crawfish pickup and delivery. So what about you could have just said that, dude.
Oh, my bad. I didn't want to interrupt you. I didn't want to interrupt you. Yeah.
You're good. Yeah, I always share.
I can't believe I'm the asshole that's having the technical difficulties today. I don't know why my phone just turned.
Because I probably shared it with you and it probably alerted you.
Hella weak.
So this dude sucks at flying, and he picks up some like Craigslist equivalent, some like 1970s. Craigslist equivalent of like those gigs.
If you look at his picture, do you have his actual picture?
Yeah, right here.
Like,
I got it right here, as a matter of fact.
No. His real, like the one that's on Wikipedia, his like because the dude was in the Australian Royal Air Force. Well, he tried to enlist in the like he's in the uniform in the picture, but he's never actually got in. I don't think he was rejected because of inadequate educational qualifications. Um, but he looks, I would say he looks dapper. His mouth is a bit agape. He kind of has the look of like a slow person, if you ask me. But I mean, like what we do know about him is that he was an alien enthusiast, no, a flying saucer enthusiast, which
he was a snappy dresser. I'll give him that.
that's
Based on this picture that we're looking at here.
Ages out, yeah.
Dung, dung, dung.
So what? So what do we got? What we got here is a couple things about the investigation. And you had some interesting things. You said that you watched some documentaries, but I wanted to get into like how they investigate it and then like the proposed explanations. And then we can talk about like what we think happened.
Sure.
You know, like our old what do you call it? The bullpen, I guess you could say, right?
Oh, you're
So
talking about this place? We'll take it
yeah,
to take it to the bullpen.
yeah, the bullpen.
And we'll discuss it
Yeah.
before anyone
Yeah,
gets
yeah.
home. Like Tyler said, he needs to know what happened to the socks. So we'll figure out what happened to the socks. Go ahead and tell us, V, then what you were going to tell us just now about the
Okay, yeah.
theories, right?
So as far as the proposed explanation, well, we'll start with the investigation. It says a Department of Transport DOT investigation into Valentek's disappearance was unable to determine the cause, but it was presumed fatal for Valentek. So they're saying that he probably crashed into the ocean. And I mean, if you think about it, like they're not going to go like searching the depths of like the ocean for this guy's ship. I mean, there are parts of the ocean we haven't even like this like 3% or something that we've seen in the ocean.
Yeah, we've only seen anywhere between 5 and 10% is what.
Yeah, it's like not
So there's
so 5 years.
a lot of it.
Right. So 5 years after his craft went missing, an engine cowl flap was found washed ashore on Flinders Island in July 1983. The Bureau of Air Safety Investigation asked the Royal Australian Navy research about the likelihood that the cowl flap might have traveled to its ultimate position from the region where the aircraft disappeared. The Bureau noted that the part has been identified as coming from the Cessna 182 aircraft between a certain range of serial numbers, which included his aircraft. So it could have been his. That could have been his aircraft, but they couldn't say for sure, right? So here are the proposed explanation. Like that's not definitively saying, like that's not saying that it is his aircraft, but it was in the same serial number. So that's enough to say, well, maybe. Maybe, I don't know. Okay, so the proposed explanations. It has been proposed that Valentek staged his own disappearance, even taking into account a trip between 30 and 45 minutes to Cape Otway. The single-engine Cessna 182 still had enough fuel to fly 800 kilometers despite ideal conditions. At no time was the aircraft plotted on radar, casting doubts as whether it was ever near Cape Otway. And Melbourne police received reports of a light aircraft making a mysterious landing not far from Cape Otway at the same time as Valentek's disappearance. Right, so that's plausible, and like that was the one that I kind of like first leaned towards, because you go, well, like, why do people really disappear logically? Like they got the tax evaders, right? They go back taxes. They gotta like disappear, right? Another proposed explanation is that Valentek became disoriented and was flying upside. This is the old Bermuda Triangle theory, right? He was flying upside down because he got disoriented for some reason, right? He was a shitty pilot. That says enough right there. If this were the case, the lights he thought he saw would be his own aircraft's lights reflected on the water. Then he would have crashed into the water, right? However, the model Cessna he was piloting could not have flown inverted for as long as it has a gravity feed fuel system, meaning that its engine would have cut out very quickly. Yet another proposed possibility is suicide. However, interviews with doctors and colleagues who knew him virtually eliminated this possibility. So people were saying, well, he just killed himself that way, but then everybody's saying, no, he wouldn't do that. People that knew him and the doctors knew him, so they're saying that's not a possibility either. So that one, I kind of rule this one out because like it doesn't add up. Like if it's first of all, the plane couldn't have flown that long because of the way the fuel feed was, right? Second of all, it's kind of like, I don't know, already you're going, I don't know, like with everything. Like, he killed himself by plane. Like, why don't why don't you just do it? Like, there's easier ways to do it, you know? So the last one, it says this is the one, 2013 review of the radio transcripts and other data by an astronomer and retired U.S. Air Force James McGaugh and author Joel Nichol proposed that the inexperienced Valentech, we know he's an inexperienced, was deceived by the illusion of the tilted horizon, for which he attempted to compensate and inadvertently put his aircraft into a downward so-called graveyard spiral, which is an actual thing, which he intentionally mistook for the simple orbiting of the aircraft. According to authors, the G-force of the tightening spiral would decrease fuel flow, resulting in rough idling, reported by Valentech, which he reported, right? Magaha and Nickel also proposed that the apparently stationary overhead lights that Valentech reported were probably just planets, Venus, Mars, and Mercury, along with the bright star Antares, which would have behaved in a consistent way with what Valentech described. Right, okay.
My argument with that one... Oh, no, go ahead. Are you going to argue it or what?
No, there was one last. Well, I was going to give you the UFO explanation.
Yeah, let's do that one. I'm ready.
Okay, so and this is why we cover this, right? This is the reason why we brought this topic, is so that we could speculate that it was aliens, right? So UFOologists have speculated that extraterrestrials either destroyed Valentech's aircraft or abducting him, asserting that some individuals reported seeing an erratically moving green light in the sky and that he was in a steep dive at the time. UFOlogists believe the accounts are significant because of the green light mentioned in Valentech's radio transmissions. The group Ground Saucer Watch, based in Phoenix, Arizona, claims that the photos were taken that day by a plumber, Roy Manifold, right, plumber, shown a fast-moving object exiting the water near Cape Otway Lighthouse. According to UFO writer Jerome Clark, Ground Saucer Watch argued that they showed a bona fide unknown flying object of moderate dimensions, apparently surrounded by a cloud-like vapor exhaust residue, although the pictures were not clear enough to identify the object. So there's your explanations. That's kind of the what have yous of it.
Which do you think it is?
Well, I lean towards the stage to zone disappearance, and like that to me is like, you know, I always go straight with logic, and I go, well, if he wanted to disappear, I mean, just based on the information we know, the stuff that we just read about, he was an idiot, right? He couldn't fly. He was rejected by the Air Force. He couldn't do anything right. There's not much to say. Like, it doesn't say if he was married or had kids or anything. He was 20 years old, right, when he went missing. So he probably didn't have anything really. So who knows? Like, maybe he had this plane and he was like, you know what? I'll just steal it. I'll just bail out and create a new identity somewhere else. Maybe he flew over to like South America or something and married a Chilanguita or something. That's my logic goes to that. I think, you know, I'm always going to go, well, it's probably not UFOs. You know, it seems a little ludicrous to me. My logic goes, he owed back taxes. He was dodging the IRS, man. He probably took the plane.
Australian Revenue Service.
Yeah. He probably took the plane, disappeared. That's my logic. What do you think?
He probably just took out a really good insurance policy on the Cessna, right? That's what he was flying when he ate it, and then made sure that it was actually going to pay out to, and his life insurance and the insurance policy on the Cessna were probably set to pay out to Ingerbird Boynes or his brother
Rupert.
No, his brother Zap Rousdower. I'm going to use all these names that people gave in the chat throughout this discussion.
Zap Rousdower.
Zap Rousdower.
That's a good one. I like that one.
Yeah. And then the other person that it could have perhaps gone to was Ingerbird Boynes. And those were the two people who were on his life insurance and the insurance for his vehicle.
Right.
I think they make a lot of very valid points. There are a few that I take issue with. I know that, you know, when you're in the pool, right, and you're swimming, I've not ever flown an airplane, but I imagine there are times, where you can easily get disoriented and confused, especially over open water like that, where you can get confused as to which way is up. But granted,
Yeah.
I mean, once you're upside down, it's probably very difficult to not recognize that you're upside down when you start feeling
I
the blood
agree.
rushing to your head,
Yeah.
unless
Yeah,
you're in that state of disoriented state, right? But then the graveyard spin made a lot of sense with the lights reflecting off of the water, and it would look like it's orbiting above him. I could see that. And then, yeah, like you said, crashing into the water, it would be, again, the search for somebody in that, and I believe that would fall under the Pacific Ocean or the Indian Ocean. It was west. I don't know where the Indian Ocean picks up in that, but you know what's funny about the Indian Ocean and the Pacific Ocean is where they meet. You can tell which one is which because the Indian Ocean looks filthy. It looks like sewage water, and then the Pacific Ocean, same thing with the Atlantic, is they're both very blue, and then they don't mix because they're the differences between the water. And but yeah, I think there's so much of the ocean that is unexplored that I'm surprised that they found anything, and except for that one piece, and they were able to track that down. It's pretty fascinating how back in those days, even, we talked about they were able to track down a book in that Talmud Shud or whatever episode.
Yeah.
They were able to track down a book back in the 40s or in the 50s or whatever, and then here they're able to find a small piece of a plane, and they were able to track down that it could have possibly been his because it fell under that serial number. Here's a sad story for you. I'm going to take us to a sad place, and then we'll bring ourselves back out of a sad place.
By the way, it's the Indian Ocean. It
was the Indian Ocean. Well, it's probably even harder to find something in there mixed with all the trash
I had
that
to
gets
Google
dumped in
Maps it. The Bass Strait there.
Yep. So
technically, it's what do you call it? The Tasman Sea in the Indian Ocean. But yeah.
So probably a very disgusting area that nobody wanted to go in anyways.
Yeah.
They didn't want to go look. That's why he's been missing for 41 years, 9 months, and 17 days.
He's probably in Tasmania. He's probably in Tasmania
Just
chilling.
hanging out. How old would he be now? He'd be, what, in his 60s? Yeah, 61.
60-something.
Probably still can't fly a plane worth a damn.
But... yeah. Asshole.
But yeah, I'm gonna take us to a sad place real quick. Like I said, I'm surprised that they were able to find anything. Because recently my cousin-in-law, I call him, is what I call him because he's my wife's cousin's husband. So he was always a part of the family get-togethers, and we got along really well. He's a great guy. He was the only other one of two other white guys in the family. So obviously we had to stick together, in case of the race war, right? And in the yard. So, but he was, he was a good dude, and he was actually a pilot in the Army he flew a Chinook, I believe, and they were out they had just gotten to Hawaii and for the new duty station, and they were doing some kind of training exercise out over the water, and it was nighttime, and we come to find out that their helicopter had gone down over the water and ways out. So, I mean, it wasn't very easy to recover anything from the wreck. And everyone on the helicopter died, he included. And they were only able to find, I think they found his helmet and, a couple pieces of scrap from the helicopter. Wow. Even when they know, with modern technology, even when they know where something went down, it's very difficult to find stuff in the ocean. Just because it's so big and so dangerous. You never catch me out there. I'm terrified of the ocean. I have what's called thalassophobia, fear of the sea. And, but yeah, for somebody back in the 70s, right? Yeah, 1978. For somebody back then to try to track something like this down, I imagine it would have been very difficult. So I'm surprised that anything washed up on shore. But that kind of lends credence to the theory that he faked his own death, because who's going to catch on? You know what I'm saying? If you take the plane and you're on a trajectory to not hit the island and just go down in the water, and then you just eject and bail out and then swim to the shore or whatever. No, and back then they didn't have, the sort of technology that you could track people down as easily. People did it all the time. They would just disappear. And now it still happens, but it's very difficult to do in the United States, especially, or any modern cultures or modern countries. But yeah, I think that's a pretty good one. I like that, being able to, or just faking your own death. I think that's probably the most likely. I think also just as likely is probably that he was confused or disoriented because he's a shitty pilot. But it wouldn't be You Had Me at Bigfoot if I didn't take up the torch and go to bat for the idea that it was UFOs. Because, and this is my opinion, and we talked about this briefly earlier when we were doing our pre-show discussion. I think in situations where somebody called me out on ejecting from a Cessna. I think you can jump out of those things. I'm not talking about shooting out of it like a jet or whatever. I'm talking about like
rocket,
rolling out.
Ejector seat. What do you call it?
Now I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, just rolling out the side. Those things don't fly fast and hard enough for you to, not be able to eject from it. But where was I going with that? UFOs. I think we had kind of talked about it, and I think when you're a ufologist, right, is what they're called, or somebody who studies aliens in depth, or for instance, in my case, somebody who studies demons, somebody who studies ghosts, somebody who studies these scary things that are dangerous or potentially dangerous, or even people who hunt Bigfoot or the Skinwalker, right, or the Wendigo or whatever. Like if you're looking for them, chances are they know it because they're better at bushcraft in the cryptid world, or surveillance and aviation or whatever in the alien world, or just being aware, like the spiritual awareness of hunting ghosts and demons and searching for demons and stuff. They're better at those things than we are. We're just fleshy sacks of meat that have like limited understanding of these things, so they're always going to have an edge on us. And I think that this guy was vocal enough and obvious enough in his studies that the aliens probably were aware of him, I would imagine. And I think that there's that Nietzsche quote that I shared with you. If you gaze long enough into the abyss will gaze long into you. And so I think that applies here too. I think this dude was probably rooting around in some alien stuff and like looking for aliens, and he found them, or they found him rather. And whether they now this is where I don't know. Whether they abducted him or whether they just obliterated his ship. And either one is possible. But you can if you look up this guy, Frederick Hornblower, and if you look him up and you type in the word abduction afterwards, like that's a huge thing, is people think that he was abducted by aliens, which wouldn't surprise me either. Them snatching him up out of the plane, and you would still end up with all the pieces. You're not going to find a human body in the ocean, period. Especially 41 years and 9 months and 17 days later. But even back then, you're not going to find it, because it's going to sink. Once the air leaves it, it's going to sink like a rock, and then animals are going to feed on it. And depending on how deep that area is, I don't know how deep it is, but if he sank to the bottom, it could just easily get washed over by the sand at the bottom. So you're just not going to find him. And he may have been abducted too, and I think there's just too much there. That's where I'm confused, whether or not aliens blew him up or if they abducted. Either one.
Well, here's something interesting that I stumbled across, kind of to, I guess, help your argument here, is I actually found the transcript of the conversation between Valentek and Roby, the radio transcript. So I have right in front of me what they were talking about before his disappearance. And didn't you say this Roby guy is still alive? Didn't you say you watched the documentary? He's like still alive,
yeah,
right?
He's still alive. Hold on. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to pull up the final communications, and we can do like a play. Like we'll pretend that we'll read each other. You know what I'm
that's
saying?
awesome. Yeah. Yeah, do you want me to send you the link?
No, I've got it right here. I've got it, transcript of Frederick Dick Brewer, final communications with Melbourne Air Traffic Control.
Yeah.
So, all right, who do you want to be?
It doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Okay, you go ahead and start us off.
Okay, I'll be Valentech then. Is there any known traffic below 5,000 feet?
Delta Sierra Juliet, no known traffic.
It seems to be a large aircraft below 5,000.
Delta Sierra Juliet, what type of aircraft is it?
Cannot confirm. It is for bright. It seems to me like landing lights. The aircraft had just passed over me at least 1,000 feet above.
Delta Sierra Juliet, Roger, and it is a large aircraft, confirm?
Unknown due to the speed it's traveling. Is there any Air Force aircraft in the vicinity?
Delta Sierra Juliet, no known aircraft in the vicinity.
It's approaching right now from due east towards me. It seems to me that he's playing some sort of game. He's flying over me 2-3 times at speeds I cannot identify.
Delta Sierra Juliet, Roger. What is your actual level?
My level is 4,500, 4500.
Delta Sierra Juliet, and confirm you cannot identify the aircraft.
Affirmative.
Delta Sierra Juliet, Roger. Stand by.
It's not an aircraft. It's. Is that 2 seconds?
Yeah.
It says silence for 2 seconds.
Oh, is this me? Am I supposed to take it?
Yeah, you're Roby.
Oh, yeah, right. That's right. I see. Delta Sierra Juliet, Melbourne. Can you describe your aircraft?
It's flying past. It's a long shape. Cannot identify more than before me right now. Melbourne.
Delta Sierra Juliet, Roger. And how large would the object be?
It seems like stationary. What I'm doing right now is orbiting, and the thing is orbiting on top of me also. It's got a green light and sort of metallic, like it's all shiny on the outside. It's just vanished. Would you know what kind of aircraft I've got? Is it a military aircraft?
Oh, I think that was me.
Yeah, confirm them. Yeah. No, you say confirm the aircraft. See, it's probably because we're reading different ones. I have an abridged one.
Oh, oh yeah. So I just know normally mine starts out with Delta Sierra Juliet. Confirm your aircraft just
Yours
vanished.
says mine doesn't say the Delta Sierra. It says, is the aircraft still with you? And then I say, it's the engine is rough idling. I got set at 23, 24, and the thing is coughing. And then you say,
Delta Sierra Juliet, Roger. What are your intentions?
My intentions are to go to King Island, Melbourne. The strange aircraft is hovering on top of me again. It's hovering. It's not an aircraft. And then silence for 17 seconds, open mic with audible, unidentifiable, static noise, and then end of transcript.
Delta Sierra Juliet, Melbourne.
Does it really say Delta Sierra Juliet?
Every time. Yeah, well, because he's a professional. My character that I was playing was a professional air traffic controller, so he naturally had to address Delta Sierra Juliet. So every time. And that's just But your guy
he was a lame-o.
Frederick Fellatioworth was he was not an experienced pilot, so he didn't recognize proper call sign procedures. If he would have done more than 150 hours, he would have understood.
He didn't know what he was doing. He blew it. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So what do you think? Like, based on that, what do you think? Do you think he like really had an alien above him, or do you think he was just trying to like sell it? Like, did my acting make you go, he's an asshole, he's lying, he's just making it up so he can like disappear?
Is that what
that's what I was going.
Is that what you're doing?
That's what I was going. Okay. Like, try to sound like a bad liar.
Did mine make it sound? What did mine make it sound like? The dude sounded like. Critique mine.
He didn't believe me. He didn't believe the guy. Like he knew him probably, and he was like, "Come on, guy, it's not an alien. You're just being an asshole." Describe it to me. He was calling him out every chance he got. Like when somebody tells you a lie, like, okay, here's something funny. I got this message on LinkedIn the other day, and it was like right away I knew it was like a fake person because they go, I work with the army. And I said, oh, you work with the army? I go, so you're a contractor then? And they go, no, I'm in the army. And I go, oh, you're in the army? Well, where are you stationed at? And they go, I'm stationed in the army. And I'm going, okay, well, where is your location? What's your unit? What's your rank? And then they like go, no, I'm a nurse in the army. And I go, okay, you wouldn't say nurse if you were in the army. You'd say medic, right? And then like I like already I'm going, this person is a total liar. But like you start asking questions to make them like have to answer things that you know would be wrong. Like, well, you just contradicted yourself, so you're obviously lying. Right? So I think that's what this guy was doing. Roby was trying to ask Frederick Fart Bubbler. Frederick
that's not a real name.
Frederick Fart Barfunkel. He was trying to ask Frederick if he was like calling him out, like, okay, so you're saying it's alien, well then how about this and how about that? And then the dude was going, oh, I don't know. And then like the pauses were like for like effect, you know, like he was pausing to make it seem more like dire, you know.
You know what's interesting?
So that's what I think.
There was I had read that the final transmission from Frederick Fart Bubbles is what you said, right? That's his name.
Yeah, Fart Bubbler.
Fart Bunkle.
Fart Bunkle.
Captain Fart Bunkle. The lieutenant. No, he wasn't even that. In the last transmission from him, I guess he had like cut off, but then there was like this clicking metallic noise or whatever. And so this dude was listening or whatever at the air traffic control office, and he said that it was like a bunch of clicking and then some metallic scraping and metallic noises, almost like a talking, and like kind of how you imagine when people take their artistic liberties of what aliens sound like in movies, and sometimes they sound like a clicking and a metallic twang with a metallic twang to it. I think that might be a key thing. You know what I'm saying? Like I think that might be
like on remember Men in Black with the second one when he meets Kay at the mail room and he like he calls they all start beatboxing. I thought that's what aliens sounded like.
They all sound Rastafarian.
That's
No, you know what? I think they sound like. Did you ever watch District 9? Remember District 9? The prawns?
No, I have. I started watching it.
You should.
But they have like that predator like clicking. Is that what you're talking?
Yeah,
it's like
yeah, they kind of sound like they do that clicking, and they call them prawns. Like that's their racist name, which is what I'm so excited. I know we've talked about this before. Is like on First Contact. Like, who's going to make up the racist names for the aliens?
Yeah, I can't wait for that.
That's going to be the best. Like, as soon as we get a good look at them, which is why we need to prepare. Like, by going, and I wouldn't recommend doing this, but our first episode was about alien races. And, you know, if you look at the different alien races and we start looking at pictures, maybe we'll do that one of these days. You had me at racist alien names. We'll redo race wars or whatever, alien race wars. But we should look at the pictures. We should look at those pictures and come up with. We should be prepared for this because as soon as they show up, we need to be ready to immediately lay on some slander and some like heavy with the slurs. You know what I mean? So whoever's the first one to do it, that's what's going to stick. It's got to be good and it's got to be first. And so we should be prepared for that. And I think everyone will agree with that. And that's the beautiful thing about us coming together as a planet. Like everyone's thinking about like coming together as a planet because now we have this new race, like this new planetary race that we have to, or the species, right? That we have to come together and be prepared to like either work with them or protect ourselves from, and we need to come together to do it. But a lot of people are forgetting that once that happens, we also, as a global community, we will all be able to be racist towards these aliens, right? And so that's the one thing that we'll all have in common is we'll be able to be racist towards these aliens. And I, for one, am very excited about that time. What else do we have to talk about this Frederick Valentic?
Well, I don't know. That was really kind of the gist of it, I guess. I think the one thing that I kind of was like curious about is um like what the alien community says about it, and like most of the people think it's an alien, like it's right away, like all the accounts of people like that examine this, the ufologists and whatnot, they all think it was alien, right?
Right.
So I think it would be interesting to hear like it would have been nice to have somebody from that community be able to like explain to us why they think it's alien, but I
Well, I think
can't.
it's obvious, right?
Why? Because he, yeah.
Because, well, I mean, like, we talk about the lights that he saw, right?
Okay,
And
well,
then
okay. What about this?
Mhm.
What type of alien do you think took him? What type of alien do you think took him? Like green, okay, green lights on the ship, right? That's weird. That's the first thing that like we know. And then he called it a long. What did he call the ship? A long ship or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, long
What
something.
alien race? What? Oh no, it says what alien race is the Venom symbiote from? That's like what it automatically filled in for Google search. What alien race uses green lights on the ship? Let's find out. Let's just Google it. Acturian. No, that's a thing. Battleship wiki. Top astronomers say an alien ship may be among us.
Battleship with Liam Neeson.
Probably.
Starring Liam Neeson. I was thinking of Flight of the Navigator. That was a long spaceship. Remember Flight of the Navigator? That old Disney movie? And the robot eyeball thing would say compliance. And then like it was like this big long, you don't remember the ship on Flight of the Navigator? Do you know what movie I'm talking? Is this an obscure reference? Is this too obscure for you?
Yeah.
Flight of the Navigator. Google the ship on Flight of the Navigator. You'll see what I'm talking about.
So
that's what I imagined the ship to.
Here's something for you, V. To answer your question, I didn't mean to cut you off. Flight of the Navigator. Is that something I need to watch? You're saying? V. V, did I lose you? Okay.
No, I was just saying Google the ship, because that's what I imagine the image to look like of the ship when he says it's a long spaceship. You know, they did pretty good. This is like an 80s movie, man. It was pretty funny. He like finds this spaceship and then like it takes him into the future, and like then he meets his family in the future, and like it's kind of a bizarre movie.
This ship kind of looks like a turtle shell.
Yeah.
Is that the right one?
Maybe. Hang on. I'm gonna save this image and then send it to you.
You know what I forgot to do? I forgot to put it in
You get
the
what I'm
bullpen.
saying? Oh yeah, we did that. We just didn't.
We just did it in the car, I guess.
Whatever.
Hold on, I'm pulling up this Flight of the Navigator here.
Okay, I'm just gonna send you the image on the.
This
is what I imagined it to look like. Yeah, kind of, but the images I sent you kind of is like more on the Skype there.
Yeah, I'm seeing it.
See how it's like long? Yeah, that's kind of what I see. Yeah, Flight of the Navigator, dude. That's kind of what I see when he says it was long. In my head, like, of course, this is my image in my head. This is not something it's like realistic, something realistic here. But I mean, what do we know? That's what we know based on the information that he said. I mean,
hold on, I'm putting it on the.
That's it, you know.
Putting it on the screen for everybody.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Stand by.
Standing by.
I have all these flat Earth pictures that I had on that I have ready to go because hopefully.
Oh yeah, yeah. There you go. Yeah, that's the one right there. That's what I imagine it to look like. Yeah, late 80s. Yeah, Judogi.
You know what? Here, I'm going to tell you though. Green fireballs are a type of unidentified flying object which have been sighted in the sky since the early 1950s. Early sightings primarily occurred in the southwestern United States, particularly in New Mexico. They were once of notable concern to the United States government because they were often clustered around sensitive research and military installations such as Los Alamos and Sandia National Laboratory, then Sandia Base. But yeah, so apparently green fireballs is a thing. And I would, and to defend your position, he could have made that up because I would imagine a dude who was into that would probably know about
he would know
fireballs.
Yeah.
So when he's telling
that's a good point.
But I still think that he got mowed down by a wing commander, one of the Kilrathi or whatever.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, let's here. Hold on. You know what? I'm gonna put his. I think that it was aliens and they obliterated him or abducted him. I think that that's a fair assessment. What do you think, Detective
I'm
Hornblower?
I think that's what I think. I think the guy, yeah, Horatio T. Spalding. I think what happened was he owed back taxes, right? He was like trying to dodge the IRS. He took out a big insurance on the plane on the Cessna, and then he had his buddy, somebody probably the friggin' the Roby guy, probably the guy. He was probably in on it too, right? And so he goes, "You're gonna be the one that picks up the insurance money." Right, and so I'm gonna stage this disappearance, but really what's gonna happen is I'm gonna fly into Tasmania, right, which is right across the pond there, right to the Bass Strait. From Melbourne, you can get to Tasmania on a Cessna, right? So he goes through, he stages this thing so that it seems like he's abducted by aliens, and no one will question it. He lands in Tasmania somewhere, dismantles the ship entirely, right? Throws a couple of pieces, like he's got some, locals that he has help him out, and then he like just lives in Tasmania, or like grows a mustache and dyes his hair blonde, and then just kind of like disappears.
So what you're
like
saying is he disassembled. He landed in Tasmania, which I already have a hard time with because we know he wasn't a very good pilot. He lands it in Tasmania and then disassembles the ship himself and then just occasionally sneaks to the ocean and hucks it like piece by piece.
He's got some people there. He's got to have somebody.
That's a horrible
have some
theory.
people there, right?
I'm telling the captain that this is what you're. No, and you know what? Detective Primavera actually wants to know what happened to his socks. If you can explain what happened to his socks, then we can all go home.
Yeah, he never wore socks in the first. He just didn't like wearing socks, man. That's my argument. My argument will always stand for that one.
He had those written on his socks or whatever. All right. So what did we learn today, V? Did we learn anything?
Yeah. Don't let some asshole that fails a flight shit do anything for you, because he's an idiot probably. He's probably an idiot. I think that's what it comes down to. Regardless of whatever happened to him, like we can't determine that. Like even at this point, like we can speculate all we want, but like one thing that we know for sure, like without the shadow of a doubt, is he was probably an idiot. He was more than likely a dumb shit. Yeah. He's like, he failed a bunch of tests, and like when you look at his education and his background, like he couldn't even get into the military because he didn't have education.
When you can't get into the military,
part of the reason
that's you're in a bad place.
Yeah. Right.
Uh-oh,
So
we
that's
got the rookie. We got the rookie, Sterling. What do you think happened to this alien or to this guy? Talking to the microphone. Stand up. The captain's watching. What happened to him?
I don't know.
You don't know? You got to give us a theory. Nothing? Well, this is why you'll never make detective. All right. Well, that's that. I think we solved the... I'm happy with that. You know what? When you sent this to me, I thought... The first thing I thought was, well, duh, it's aliens. Like, it says right here. It says it's aliens or whatever. There's really nothing to it. This guy is not a secret agent like the other guy. There's not like a possibility of
a cleaner,
demons versus aliens versus cryptids.
What did we call
like
it?
The first one. What works?
Yeah,
you're talking about. This one was
like
a
Wetworks.
cut and dry.
Is it Wetworks?
Yeah, this one was cut and dry. Aliens. So
what's your assessment? You think is aliens, huh? You think he was abducted?
I think it was either aliens or it was something boring. I think it was either incompetence or aliens.
Obliterated his shit.
Yeah. Aliens or incompetence were the guilty parties or were the perpetrators in this case. And
probably both.
Incompetence is the house or are the nails used to build a house of failure. And he found that out the hard way by crashing his plane into the ocean or being shot down by aliens, one or the other. But either way, the fact that he allowed aliens to kill him. That's got to be that's my thing is I'll never let an alien kill me, right? Because then you just end up becoming a COVID statistic, right? Because they can't prove it. They don't know what did it, so they're just like, "Oh, he died of COVID-19." so that they can get extra money
I
out of
like
you.
that. Like we're going back to another Will Smith movie. Remember on Independence Day when he like
Hmm.
takes out that plane, he takes out the alien ship, and then the alien pops out of the thing and he just socks it in the
Yeah,
face.
I
Is
do
that what
remember
you would
that.
do? Like you just sock the alien in the face? He
No,
like pops out and scares him and he just punches it in
well,
the face.
I think if I ever encountered an alien, if the opportunity presented itself where I had the jump on it and I knew that it was going to be like, and I knew it was hostile, yeah, I mean, I would probably choke it out, because you got to remember that we don't know what they're capable of, right? And as of right now, you and I, like, we are not high enough security clearance to know
No,
what
definitely
aliens
not.
can or cannot do and what's going to hurt them.
No.
So you have to assume that, we know a punch to the jaw is going to knock somebody down, a human down, but what is it going to do an alien? I don't know.
Yeah.
So I would probably slug it and hope to get an element of surprise or like the upper hand. But then you got to immediately get into a dominant position and like wrestle this thing until it stops moving or until something happens, because we don't know if it can phase shift, we don't know if it can shape shift, we don't know if it can teleport, we don't know anything. So I mean, like, you got to choke it out until it stops moving, or until something happens where you have to adapt. It's like
Right.
like that saying, and I don't know who said it. Everyone's got a plan until they get socked in the face. You got to remember
That's
that
a damn good quote.
you have to be prepared for that sort of, like, even all the planning in the world,
It's
you're not going to
it's
be ready for an
disorienting
alien.
right then. Like
Right.
all the stuff that you're prepared for, you get socked in the face, and then boom, disorient. Like when you get like everybody's been socked. Like I know guys like us, we've been socked before because we tend to run off at the mouth. But like like I remember
No
I got
doubt.
socked when I was a kid one time, and it was because I was going around telling people that one of these other kids smelled like poop, and it was like a poor kid, right? And it's like when you're in junior high or elementary school, and you just talk shit, but you don't realize that you're talking shit about someone, and it's gonna offend them. And so I was going around telling everybody, yeah, he smells like poop and blah 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 blah. And so I ran into the kid one day at my friend's house, and it didn't occur to me that he would hear somebody saying that and telling him, so like Ryan's telling everybody that you smell like poop. And so I ran into him at a friend's house and I just walked up like, hey buddy, like we were friends, and he didn't even, without like breaking us like anything, he just popped me right in the face, like boop, right in the nose. And I was like, oh, like it disoriented me. Like I was just like, what the like why did you do that, man? And he was like, you're telling everybody I smell like poop. And I realized, oh, you heard that about that.
Word travels fast, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. But that's disorienting. That's the one thing. If you get socked in the face, you're going to be disoriented. You're not going to be prepared for what's coming next.
Yeah.
So
So
I
with an
agree with that
alien, with an
statement.
alien fight, man, you got to be like. This is why I tell people, you got to read up on. There are some people who write some pretty crazy stuff, and you kind of dismiss it as crazy or whatever. But you got to start reading stuff like this, the Alien Invasion Survival Handbook. Like, get your hands on. Somebody put a lot of work into this book, right? And they've got like all the possible, like, for instance, how to trap an alien, right? And they've got this thing here. So, but yeah, you got to be prepared, right? And you have to understand all the possibilities based on what we know from crazy people. You have to plan for that sort of thing, because you never know which one, what's true and what's not true. And then furthermore, if there are in fact multiple alien races, which is a theory, and some of them are good and some of them are bad, and some of them have this distinct ability or characteristic, whereas this one doesn't, and certain ones have different vulnerabilities and stuff. You have to know it all, because one day maybe you encounter an Anunnaki, whereas another, and you're prepared for that. But say it was an Alpha Draconian, maybe you aren't as well read on Alpha Draconians, so you need to know them all. And I highly
Yeah.
recommend reading all those, all the people that we kind of write off as crazy. You got to know them, because what are you going to do when an Alpha Draconian pops out of his ship? You
Yeah.
can't just slug them in the
Fucking
mouth.
fucking reptilians, man. That's
Yeah.
they're out there.
So is that how we're gonna end the episode? Alpha Drick or reptilians, man, they're out there.
Yeah, fucking. It's just like my default, it's the default to blame everything on. Like something bad happens, you go, God damn reptilians, dude, it's the fucking reptilians again. Something happens that you can't control. It's got to be the reptilians fucking with you.
Oh, no doubt.
Probably what it is.
You know what Mike said? He said he's always on this pink sock talk, and
I know.
He said, imagine getting pink socked in the face.
The old prolapsed anus.
Oh man, like if you get pink socked and then you gotta it's like the Dirty Sanchez, right? You take it and you whip somebody across the mouth with it. So I mean, you gotta strike back, right? And then then Judogi said, I thought getting teabagged was bad, and yeah, that's horrible. The Dirty Sanchez with the pink sock. It's like getting munged.
Yeah, it's a combo. Oh, mine. Let's not bring that one back.
That's my favorite.
That was terrible. So gross. Yuck.
What do you got to send us on our way this week, V? Do you want to?
Well,
or I'll do. I appreciate. You know what? I'm going to do what Yakov always does. All right, go ahead and shill your stuff, V.
Well, a shill. That's such a funny word. Well, I appreciate you guys coming out and watching us. I always laugh and I say, it's so funny that these dudes, they put aside some time to listen to us. They go, hey, V and Tom, that other guy, or Tom and that other guy, the one that nobody sees ever, is going to be talking soon. And we put aside our time and they listen to us. And you know what even more cracks me up is that we have these fans all over the world. We got the Mike and Manitobas out there in Canada, and then we've got the little Lotties out there in the UK, and these fans that are it's kind of surprising every time I say, what do you know? We got some people they're faithful and loyal, and I appreciate that. And I hope you guys continue. Again, follow us on the Twitter. You guys, my new image there with me looking all slick there with the my LinkedIn and my Twitter ad there, so you can follow me. And be sure to follow us on Twitter, You Had Me At, and Instagram too. I think we have some other ones or whatever. Send us messages if you guys ever want to chat. We'll respond to you. We're not doing shit, man. We're a couple of lazy veterans, man. I mean, Tom has some stuff going on, but he'll respond to you. I promise he will. So that's what I got. What do you got?
I do respond because I'm always looking for an excuse to get away from the stuff that I'm supposed to be doing. Right? I actually scored a 70. I actually scored a 75 on my ethics exam. I was supposed to. We had the ethics exams sent out. We were supposed to do them proctored, and then they canceled proctoring because of the new mandate in Kentucky where they were like, no, everything's getting shut down again. Everyone's got to wear masks and all this crap. Yeah. So a bunch of people had issues finding a proctor. So then the professor, he was like, well, I can't let some of you not have a proctor and some of you do have one or whatever. So he said, just scrap the proctor thing. He's like, I would hope that this class being an ethics class in a seminary, you guys would be honest or whatever. So go ahead and just do them yourself, kind of hold yourself accountable, and allow God to be your proctor because he's watching anyways, right?
Right,
so I did.
That sounds like a bumper sticker. God is my proctor.
God is my proctor during COVID. Yeah, but I ended up getting a 75 on it, which is tight because when I opened it, I didn't recognize really anything out of it. I started looking at it, I was like, this dude just picked the not highlighted crap and the stuff that he told us to study. But yeah, I
hate when they do that,
it, which is pretty tight.
It always happens
to
me too.
With that.
Yeah, not bad.
But yeah, as far as reaching out to us, we're always happy to talk. We're always happy to have conversations, recommendations for upcoming episodes. We've had that happen a few times where somebody presented something awesome to us. If you need a mystery solved, we are continuing. We are willing to continue this. You Had Me at Bigfoot Swinging Dicks series. Mm-hmm. We can keep doing it if you want. Just present us with mysterious things that have happened in the past, like the Dietlov Pass, the Talum Shoe.
That was Jurassic Weeb that sent that one to us, right?
Yeah. And then this one, obviously, too. This fellow with the fake name. We're always happy to solve your guys' mystery. We're like a mystery team. We're like Scooby and Shaggy and them. And
basically. Yeah.
We ride around in a minivan and pick up mysteries. The I was gonna make a.
That's what they do.
I had this. I was working on my Type 5, right? I was working on my my funny jokes, and one of my jokes, which I can't use because it's way too. I'll use it here because I can. It was and it's not complete either, so bear with me. It was a joke within a joke type thing where I talk about how I was going to write a joke about the the unapologetic pedophile, where he
It's very meta of you.
where it already, like, the joke is already funny. The unapologetic pedophile, where he's like at work, and you know, I do this number where I'm like, I want to do this joke that's called the unapologetic pedophile, but I can't do it anymore, so I'm going to do it anyways, just so you can appreciate it. Ready? Man, I cannot wait for this meeting to be. Man, I cannot wait for this meeting to be over so I can go home and look at my kitty porn. And but then I realized, like, the joke doesn't work because you can just, like, go in the bathroom and look at your phone now. Like, you don't have to go home to look at porn anymore.
Yeah.
So, like, I was building off of that premise of, like, the guy, but then also the fact that there are already, like, unapologetic pedophiles, and they call themselves they call themselves MAPS. I don't know what it stands for, but it's like they have a physical attraction to children, and they're, like, all over Twitter. You can find them, and they're just like,
they call them littles, like they call them children little.
So it's like
terrible.
It already
what a horrible
exists,
thing.
and I can't do that joke anymore. So I was working on the joke about how I can't do that joke anymore, and that was what I was working on the other day. Anyways, I am not like a stand-up comedian, so I can't.
It's still pretty good. I'll be honest, it's still pretty good.
I appreciate that. But other than that, yeah, hit us up on at You Had Me Podcast. Find us on Instagram at You Had Me Podcast, Facebook You Had Me Podcast Live, BitChute You Had Me at Bigfoot Podcast, YouTube You Had Me at Bigfoot. You're already here. Make sure. Oh, there we go. Minor Attracted Persons. That's what it's called. But yeah, and then also make sure that if you haven't already subscribed, hit that thumbs up or thumbs down button. We don't really care either one. And once it's posted, add a comment as well. It it just gives us visibility. I respond to literally every comment that is on the YouTube. I go and I filter it, like comments I haven't replied to, and I'll reply to those people. And sometimes they're angry people, and I reply to them too. So, Sterling, thank you for joining us in the studio. Make sure to hit up Redbubble and order some of our stuff. The www.youhadmeatbigfoot.com is not going to be available anymore for a brief time because there was a conflict with the iPage who hosts the website or whatever, and I had to cancel that membership, so I have to switch over to a new host. But we still do own the domain, so anticipate that it will be back up and operational here very shortly. Thank you guys for joining us. I had a great time. We appreciate you guys being here, and we'll talk to you next week.
Adios, muchachos.
You ended the stream?
Not yet. We're getting there.